Scarlet and Violet are just around the corner, and the discourse about the games has only ever skyrocketed since the first trailer. Why are people super hyped for this generation? What's making people come back or inspired to battle this time around competitively? And what does this game even offer to justify the excitement of another generation of Pokemon that's underway? Let's take a look. Ever since the first trailer was released back in February, speculation and theories were through the roof, like if Fuecoco resembled a pepper or an apple. It's an apple, by the way, thank you. Just to be clear, from now, I'm not going to go over any of the leaks, so your precious eyes and ears are safe, don't worry about that. But over the course of this year, we got a bit of information here and there about the game. And based on what I saw online with what people were talking about, it really seemed more positive than negative compared to the announcements of Sword and Shield. The game looks promising in itself based on the content showcased and what more you can do throughout your adventure, which equals out that you're in fact going to be grinding out this game a lot, which is what Pokemon was always meant to be. With different story modes to follow, grinding materials to craft TMs, side quests, raid fights, quality of life improvements, new Pokemon and more, it's only fair for people to look forward to the game more than ever, especially when multiplayer is heavily emphasized in the bigger picture here. I'm not going to sit here and go over what was revealed and such, as you probably already know all of that and you're up to date with the most recent information as well. Still, after all this, I want you to sit here and tell me which had a more promising potential with the recent games that were released. Exclude Legends Arceus, that game is a glorious game on its own. I feel there is so much more to look forward to in this new game. The last time I spoke about Scarlet and Violet, I mentioned that Sword and Shield only got good due to the DLC, so if we take a look at the game itself without DLC, then what other things were there to look forward to in the game other than exploring the wild areas and raid duns? Comparing trailers between the two games, Scarlet and Violet isn't even out yet, and there's already what feels like there's so much to do in these games. The content in Pokemon games is a factor of what carries one's thoughts in the game, and if we were to date back to older games that had an incredible amount of content, then are we looking at another content-filled game this year? Granted, the game in itself had 3 years of planning and development time. If we take a look at the timeline, then what can we see in Scarlet and Violet that took inspiration from previous titles? Considering 3 years has been a consistent time frame for developing new games, and then how much of new features or previous games can we expect to see for Gen 9? Personally, I think up until this point there's going to be a fair mix of Sword and Shield and Legends Arceus type of gameplay, because something to keep in mind is that Game Freak doesn't know if the titles exceeded expectations to perform well at first, but now with the release of the game, ever so releasing so soon, I'm sure they had some time to create some additional workarounds to better fit the consumer satisfaction of what they played previously, given how successful they were. We can definitely see the new improvements made as the trailers are released to showcase new footage and how things were tweaked. Now, given the 3 years of development time, we don't know if there's going to be DLC. I haven't read any of the leaks, so I don't know any of that, and I would appreciate it if you won't spoil that detail for me in the comment section below. I'm trying to take a look at the base game in itself and see what kind of content that we can look forward to before any supposed DLC ever gets released. The marketing for games as of late has been super weird for some reason. In the US trailer, they showed new Pokemon, and with a bad frame rate for Sunflora, while the Japanese trailer didn't have any new Pokemon teased, and a crisp frame rate for Sunflora. I mean, it's good that they're improving the builds of the game, but I still don't know how this even slipped by. It reminds me of BDSP's atrocious marketing up until the bitter end of near release. Fast forward to October 21st, 2022, media coverage began by those who were allowed access to playing the game early by the Pokemon Company, and oh my goodness was there a lot to unfold. Ultimately left everyone with mixed feelings, and for some with valid concerns about the game's performance, as it is to no shock, the games are hardly optimized to where they should be. We've had reports of the game's performance not being up to par for a Switch, 720p, which the last title on the Switch I believe that was a Pokemon title was BDSP, and now potentially Scarlet and Violet. Now granted, things can change until the official release, but you would believe that they were playing on the latest build of the game, and it's just mind-boggling that the toggling to different Pokemon to fly or climb was so smooth on Legends Arceus, just to see it look wonky for Gen 9. Now, I'm not a graphics weirdo, but I can respect players that wish to play the most optimal way in terms of graphics, but hey, even for me, it's kinda upsetting that this was how it turned out to be. But again, we have no idea how it's going to look on the final product. Most of my speculation and theories practically got confirmed, like if they were going to take elements from both Sword and Shield and Legends Arceus, and they 100% did. There are just so many workarounds of what we talked about earlier, and to this day I'm not too sure why some of the changes made even needed to exist. Like the concept of having optional trainer battles defeats the purpose of level design and Pokemon to see. You can't tell me that you were never inspired to use a single Pokemon on your team because of what you saw a trainer use. Given the demographic audience for this game as well, it's only a matter of time before the kids start start skipping over everything and not see what's even there to begin with. In no way are you going to stumble across RNG luck in the wild to be inspired to use something that you like, but besides that, who's to say that Pokemon will be locked behind trainers to be on the Pokedex of that sort? Meaning you're probably not going to find the Pokemon in the wild because those are Pokemon that the trainers are going to have, so you're never going to acknowledge the existence of it because you're skipping over all the trainers. Does that make sense? Now, it makes no difference to me since I battle almost every NPC available, but the discourse of people hating trainer fights makes me question whether or not they can accept the concept of a JRPG with the fundamental basics being vital to its core. There are many different topics on this subject to debate, and I'm not here to do that. I just think it's a unique concept for the Pokemon title this time around, and overall it's just early thoughts. However, some of the good stuff I thought was insane to acknowledge is that 18 badges return, and how long has it been since we have had a Pokemon game with 18 badges? Remember when I said this game will probably have a lot of content? Do you think that's enough for you? I haven't even gotten started with it, but I absolutely loved hearing about this, and do you see why people are starting to get hyped for Gen 9? The customization and attention to detail, like the day and night cycles being essential to what Legends Arceus was and not based on your switch time, and Pokemon traveling with you and NPCs reacting to the weather environments accordingly, deliver one message and one message only: ambition. The trainer you control typically reacts to things around them, but to this extent, I'm all in for it. This is going to be one heck of an ambitious Pokemon title for sure. Despite whatever your thoughts were on Dynamax, I'm sure we can all agree that it created a semi-decent divide on the player base given the mechanic and how it affected competitive from a singles/doubles perspective. From the mechanic being straight up banned in singles to overwhelming new strategies created in VGC, Gen 8 as a whole created an almost boring metagame all around. Whoa, shots fired. Listen, relax, and hear me out. How many Kyogres and Zacian were on almost every single team in VGC? Do I even need to mention a specific Pokemon 2 on top of that? Given the dex cut, just how many Pokemon were available to create unique and diverse teams while also being able to take down some of the solid staples on a team? There wasn't much, and if there were, I doubt it was consistent. Consistency is such a massive factor in competitive, and it sucks I couldn't even see a Golisopod showcase its kit at the World Championships, given how rare of an occurrence to even see a Pokemon like that at high level play. But man, that match is something to talk about on a different day. The introduction to terrestrializing introduces something entirely new and unique to the competitive play. With the early previews, we saw it was confirmed that the typing of the Pokemon do in fact stay, but the typing it terrestrializes into becomes its new main type. Sound confusing? Well, I'm glad you thought so, because even the Pokemon Company didn't explain this well at all. Let's take a look at Tyranitar for example. In the trailer, we saw it take on the Ghost typing. Because of that, it was able to become immune to fighting type attacks. While this is true, you also retain your original stab bonuses of Dark and Rock typing. But it will only be weak against Ghost and Dark because Tyranitar terrestrialized into a Ghost type. Does that sound busted? Because I can see from now a couple of Pokemon that are going to be super strong with this mechanic, and that an all-out rumble of power will surge in chaos for competitive play. The concept of taking into account all Pokemon being the chosen candidate to terrestrialize while also figuring out and preparing for the typing of that chosen Pokemon is just purely insane to even think about. I can sit here for an hour talking about the new items and abilities and how they can change the competitive grand scheme of things, but that is something I won't do here, but maybe over my Biglet Talks channel. Yet these aren't all the new items, and to even have a big discussion about them only makes me wonder what else we will see when the game's release, especially when the new moves are yet to be revealed as well. I have a pretty good feeling about this upcoming generation, and as it approaches right around the corner, I'm sure we are all in for a good time ahead of us. I've seen which version of the game you guys are all going to get, and some of you have pretty good taste. That's all I got for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed. Consider leaving a like and subscribe if you are new, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace out.